Good evening. This was a scheduled meeting for the Lower Makefield Ad Hoc Property Committee. Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum in attendance at this point. So we're unable to proceed with a normal meeting and with our agenda for tonight. However, since we have the opportunity with Supervisor Weiss in attendance, if he could give us some clarification and input on the results of the May 31st special supervisors meeting as it relates to this committee and the intention of continuing the committee in specifically for reviewing the master plan for Patterson Farm, which encompasses Patterson Farmstead and Satterthwaite Farmstead and the entire property that entails. So Fred, if you would like to give us a little of your perspective and what you see as the goal for this committee going forward.
Thanks, Fred. Well, at the May 31st special meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved earmarking $300,000 to develop the master plan for Patterson Farm. And that includes developing RFPs to contractors, professionals to implement it, and to include remediation of the lead contamination of that area around the Satterthwaite home. So that was it. I mean, so yeah, there was some confusion on, does that money include remediation? The answer is no. It includes developing the RFP for remediation. So it's to develop the plan so that the professionals will know how to go forward from there to actually develop either construction plans or renovation plans or restoration plans for the buildings, and develop a means by which the farm, the working part of the farm, the tillable land, is protected and not interfered with. I hope
Is there a time frame on this?
There was no time frame. However, I think the board would like to see this come to fruition by budget time, which be the end of September. So that's 3 months. And you
Which
have
would be what, the RFP or the master plan?
the master plan. No, the RFPs will be developed later, but we need, I think, the board wants to see some kind of plan where we can take to the engineers and construction people. Now you can, because the money is earmarked, you'll be working with staff, and we'll be able to engage our township engineer, Jeff Marshall, or whoever you decide to engage. You'll run it through the board, but that money is now earmarked, and how we develop, we're going to need your help to develop that master plan.
So part of our recommendation and report included the likelihood that we would engage professional firm to develop the RFP for developing the master plan. So that's kind of what we foresaw as the first step in that. In other words, developing an RFP first, and then that would develop the master plan.
We have $300,000 to do that.
Okay.
There's just, yeah, but that'll include a plan in that master plan, we'll also include a plan to RFP for remediation of contaminated soils and lead-based paint and everything like that. So I think everything that's included. So developing the master plan, you have the money to do that. There's $300,000 there, but the board decided that it was going to be $250,000, but we added another $50,000 so that we can deal with the remediation too. And we didn't want to be specific because we don't know yet, because that as the master plan is developed, we won't know how we're going to tackle the Satterthwaite home.
So Supervisor Weiss, you indicated by the end of September, you wanted a master plan or you wanted an RFP? I'm confused about the timing.
Well, the RFP can,
There's an
Once
RFP
it's
for
not-
remediation. Let's set that aside. I'm talking master plan. Do we, the committee, work with your township staff to do an RFP to let a master plan?
staff, you can engage whoever you decide, like Jeff Marshall with the Pennsylvania Conservatory, if not Jeff, anything that, you can have the engineers work with you to develop. And if you want to develop an RFP, you might want to talk to somebody if you want to get professionals to do the RFP, to actually do the RFP with your guidance, you can do that. But whatever you decide to do, and the board is letting you lead with this we earmarked $300,000 for the master plan. How you get there, the board is not going to get in your way unless you need questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
We have $300,000 to develop it. That's a considerable amount of money to develop a full plan for the buildings and the farmland. We already have the general guidelines of what we want to do.
3 months? In 3 months?
Well, if it's not reasonable for 3 months,
I don't
tell the
know.
board.
Yeah.
It's not.
Fred, does
There's no
that?
timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no timeline. And we'd like to. I mean, if in 3, you can give us a report in 3 months if it's not done, and you can say we need another 3 months.
Sure.
The point is we want to move forward, and we now have an earmark. It's not a budget item. This is an earmark to get it done. Because at this point we just want a master plan. This is not the phase 1 study, which has more money. This is just to develop a real plan, a real blueprint for us to move forward.
Fred, would the master plan include any, say, structural engineering or cost estimates?
Yeah, because we don't know how we're going to end up with the farmhouse.
Right.
We have 3 options. We can just renovate,
Mm-hmm.
we can restore it, or we can replicate it.
Okay.
So, how the engineers, how you decide on best use for that. I'm just using that as an example because that's, I think, the most popular building on the farmstead that people want to see. So how we're going to handle that, you need the professionals to help you decide what's the best way to keep that farmhouse viable. And of the 3 options that we have. Now, I'm no expert in building restoration, so I don't know. All I know is the board allocated $300,000 for the endeavor to form the master plan, and if that means develop an RFP to get people to develop a master plan, that's part of the $300,000. I don't want to pigeonhole you into any one way to go. I'm just saying you have $300,000 to do what you need to get that master plan done. Whether it's an RFP, then we'll deal with the if we need more money, but I don't think it's going to cost $300,000 to develop an RFP to get a master plan done. That's a small part of it. So the whole encompassing expense can't be more than $300,000 without going back to the board.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, you know, we got a piggy bank with $300,000 in it. We use that money to get to wherever we need for a master plan. Getting an RFP for a master plan will be part of that $300,000.
Mhm.
And how you guys want to do it, you have more experience than me in land use and everything. I don't want to pigeonhole you, and I don't want to put words in the board's mouth that wasn't on for. If you feel you need even more clarity, like how much money are allocated to develop an RFP for the master to develop a master plan, my advice would be not to do that. Let's keep the numbers where they are, and then you decide if it's with the engineer and maybe Jeff Marshall, if you want to engage Jeff, how much it would cost to do the RFP. And if there seems to be a problem with the numbers, then maybe come back to the board.
Yeah. All right. I'd be glad to try to help get us started, point us the right direction. This is within my wheelhouse, I guess, as some of this process. So I think it's ultimately multiple vendors and multiple RFPs. We talked about the quote master plan, which was a two-dimensional. I'm envisioning of the entire site, how the pieces work together, so forth. Similar to what we had done, just refined. Where we talked about parking and ingress egress, and then some of the more building and project specific things. I think we'll then have to piece that out to some third party vendors to get better budgetary estimates where we had broad ranges. We'd kind of pro bono, we'll take a look at it for an hour and give you the shoot for the hip number. I think this is where, they can only go so far as a freebie. This is maybe where we bring in some third party engineers. So it's likely to be more than one vendor with more than one expertise.
Right. So developing that blueprint will be how you decide to get to wherever the master plan is going to be. So, the board doesn't have that level of detail to direct you, but understand that the goal is to preserve as much as we can, to make, and then develop uses so that we can maintain those buildings for many years to come. And we've already gone forward. We kind of know how old the farmstead is at this point. We've talked to, I think Jim Majewski's already talked to our contact at the community college about the dendrological studies. And I don't want to go into that now because I want to see a written report. But that may alter the way we want to view some of the structures when we hear how old these buildings are, and then go from there.
Who's going to be our contact at the township for expenditures? Who do we talk to?
That's a good question. Let's just say right now, you just go through the liaisons, either James or myself, and we'll go to either Jim Majewski or our new public works director, or when we hire a new manager, we'll hire a new manager.
Okay.
All right. So right now, the liaisons are the people you want to ask questions to.
Okay. That Jim, any other comments or questions?
No, I'm real glad Jim has a handle on this because I'm feeling quite overwhelmed by it. I guess one more question that I have is if we put together a master plan with the data and with recommendations and all of this sort of things, eventually it goes to the Board of Supervisors and then you deal with public comment and adoption and all of that. Is that correct in terms of process?
I would think that you, as your professionals with your input, develop the master plan. I mean, the RFP will be pretty straightforward. Develop possible uses, what buildings need to be restored, which ones can be renovated, which ones need to be duplicated, or we don't need. I mean, some of those buildings are 20th century buildings. Some of those buildings are late 19th century buildings. Some might be older. And depending on the age of the structures, whether we renovate them or rebuild them or just leave them be or remove them, that you'll decide over the course of time.
Okay.
Yeah, because the oversight committee, if it ever is developed, will oversee the finished product. It's your job. Your task is to develop the plan and then implement the plan as you move forward. So,
okay.
I don't see your tasks being completed at any point right now. We don't. Let's get through the first phase 1 study. I was kind of surprised how old the Satisfactory farmhouse is. You'll get that information at your next open meeting, probably, if not sooner. It will be distributed amongst the committee members. Caretaker's house, how old that is.
Mhm.
We already know the limits of the age. I don't want to spoil the surprise for the members that aren't.
You'll tell us soon enough, right?
You'll know. It'll give a reason for any the 2 or 3 people, the residents that are watching us, that they can tune into the next meeting. But that may influence, the RFP. May influence not the RFP, but the master plan. Because what the RFP will entail, I'd say would be up to you guys. You already have a good start in what you've done so far. So getting that into an RFP format, and you can get Jim Majewski to help you actually write the RFP. Or if we need Remington Vernick to do it, we'll get our Remington Vernick to do it. If we want to hire somebody like Jeff Marshall to do it, you'll tell us. And as long as, just remember that we have a total earmark of $300,000.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And I'm always available, by email, by phone. You got my numbers.
Great.
Got
Thanks,
James?
Fred.
Yep. Thank you. Mr. Child, is there any other items on the agenda?
Well, since we don't really have can't really proceed with the formal agenda, is it appropriate to see if there's any public comment at this point, or this is more of an informal discussion at this point?
Well, since it's not a meeting, just this is information purposes. I mean, you can ask for public comment if there is any public comment for your own information, but there's nothing to consider at this meeting.
Right. Is there anyone online, John? Is that
No public comment.
okay? That answers that one.
All right, guys, if you need me, you know where to find
We do.
me. Take care.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks.
So
Right.
there, we
gonna-
do have a tentative, some dates for July and August, that has to get finalized, and the other members, we need to just touch base with everyone and see what their interest is in continuing on this venture. So anything else, Jim or Beth?
I don't believe so.
Not for me.
Okay, well, do we need a
A motion to adjourn? We can't make a decision. Let's just
Okay.
close the meeting and
That's true.
call it a night because it's not an official meeting.
Okay, well, thanks for your attendance and involvement. And we'll see you next time.
All righty.
Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.